Hey, I'm Sarah Jane with Criminal Breakdown. Welcome. If you are new here, I hope you stay a while. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. It's been a minute. I apologize, but we're full steam ahead. We've had quite the journey in the past couple years, but I'm excited to share with you changes and updates in our life. And, grab a cup of coffee. Grab some tea, stay a while, let's talk together, some crime, break it down. That's what we like to do here. So today we're going to be uncovering the unfortunate events of Mica Miller and that ultimately led to her death. So as you guys know, I'm not an expert by any means. I don't pretend to be. So everything today is for educational purposes only, and in no way am I meaning any harm to any family, friends, or loved ones. So let's dive on in. Mica Miller was 30 years old when she died. She was married to John Paul, a pastor of Solid Rock Church in South Carolina. Secrets of the past have arisen, and really friends and family are in shock by the disbelief and cause of death. This long story of emotional, physical, and spiritual abuse have rose to the surface now in the events after her death, and really just leaving the community in despair and awe of what has taken place and the tragic story. Unfortunately, the investigation has been closed and has captured the affection of many, but the speculations are far from over. You guys know when we break down cases, we do a deep dive into history. And what's so sad and really forthcoming is just the whole story itself laid out. So you may know JP and Mica met when she was 14. He was 28. He was her youth pastor. He officiated her first marriage between her and his long-lost buddy, Jeremy. Her dad, Michael Miller, stated that Mica's first husband was a great man, and he was a very close friend to John Paul. Jeremy and Mica both worked at the church, and really over time, John Paul started assigning Mica and Jeremy different jobs, which when we think about pastors and their duties, it's not weird to have people change jobs throughout the church, right? Sorry, my dog's coming in here. Come on, Clemmy. Come on. One day you guys are going to have to meet Clemmy, but sorry if you hear her tiptoeing around. But when we think of pastors, right, their job is to run the church and to study and read your individual personality, what your gifts are, what God has given you to help in the community. So it's not abnormal for people to take on different roles in a church. Sunday school teacher leaders, Wednesday night Bible club, small group sessions, marriage counseling, kids, youth. There's so many different roles in a church. So that didn't really shock me as much. Like everybody's been making that a big deal. Like, oh, he was trying to divide them. He probably was, but at the same point, that's not unusual to have happen in church. What's unusual is not only did he officiate the wedding, not only did he start to divide the couple by putting them in different areas of the church, he then moved Mica to be the secretary. Now, when we think about a secretary's job, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking like Aunt Betty, who she is just some wholesome woman, married to her husband, maybe 5-10 years, just looking for something to do, to help out in her community or her church. But Mica had to have been, she divorced when she was 21. So that, I mean, 20s, 19 as a secretary. So that is enough to spark some question for me. Just that he, maybe division there. Then the next part is he asked her to babysit his children. Now, babysitters happen, right? Like, I mean, I loved my babysitters when I was a kid. Like, they were like 16, 18. They were so cool. It was always so fun. But there's a line where now he's not only your pastor, and now he's your boss, and then now you're watching his children. There's just so many different things that when we look back at this breakdown of the history, it's just question mark after question mark. Like, I get the jobs, but when you're in your first years of marriage, you're supposed to be working together, to build a life, to build the community that you need to help strengthen your marriage. So that was weird. And then we find out within, of course, her watching his children, the alleged affair, which ended up ending both of their marriages, which is so sad. So allegedly, Michael Miller, Mica's dad, was asked, or he stated that the craziest part for me hearing this is when Mica asked John Paul, JP, let's call him JP. Everybody does. That was his name. When Mica asked JP, when was the moment that you fell in love with me? I've asked my husband that. He's asked me that. What was the day, the time, the hour? When did you know that you knew that you knew that you knew? When you were walking down the aisle in your first wedding. Not when, you're babysitting my kids. Not when, years later we formed this relationship. No. When she was getting married to his long-lost buddy. That's super creepy, eerie. That would have been the moment. I'm like, okay, this is weird. I'm not marrying you. This is so creepy. But it's okay. Things happen. People change. Just very weird. So in 2015, that is when the affair became public knowledge, and both marriages, of course, ended in divorce. So with this knowledge, interesting enough, there have been files through the police reports of him stalking his ex-wife. I think it was in 2015 and 2016. He stated at one point to his wife and bought the house in front of her house. Okay, they were departed, no longer anymore. They just shared the kids together. He said to her, the only reason I cannot stare in your windows. Now, this is alleged. It is a police report, and I may be messing up the words a little bit, so excuse me. But what I take from it is the only reason why I can't stare in your windows at night is because there's a huge magnolia tree in front of the community, and it's blocking my view from your windows. That is just downright creepy, first off, to say out loud to your ex when you've had an affair and plans to marry this beautiful woman that you so love the moment she walked down the aisle to your friend. And then he poured Epsom salt around the base of the tree to kill it. I mean, y'all, this guy's crazy. And I hate hearing the story after it's already happened. I mean, I know that's what we do. We love the crime. We love to figure it out. And that's one reason why I'm bringing it forth, because it is such a crazy story. But at the same time, we have to protect our loved ones. Mica Miller loved to sing and help in ministries. She was avid in her church, loved to work with children, and she attended several missionary projects. But the unfortunate events on the 27th of April at Lumber State Park, there was a local man fishing and heard the faint cries of a woman. It stopped, and then a loud gunshot went off. The fisherman went to where he had heard the gunshot and found her backpack. Later, a kayaker found Mica Miller in the water. When officials had arrived, they found the gun case and a box of ammunition with a receipt that says Mica Miller, with her ID, in the car, in her Honda Accord. The coroner and medical examiner found the cause of death was a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
She'd been struggling. She's gotten 3 different numbers, or she's had 3 different numbers in the last 3 months, trying to make sure that he did not get her phone number and could not get in contact with her. She messaged me saying, thank you for your gentle warnings over the years about JP, or my relationship with JP. I know that you knew I wasn't ready to get out yet. I've replayed our combos over and over in our head throughout the years, and wished there was a way I could get out. And now I have, with a big smile.
And that just gives me cold chills, knowing that she had served him divorce papers 2 days before she decided to go to the park. Now, she had tried to leave multiple times. She finally worked up the courage to leave, and apparently her friend said that she had gotten several different phone numbers, all in an attempt to make sure JP did not get her number. So if we think about what this young woman is going through, she's finally worked up the courage to leave her husband that she has been with since she was very young, out of a first marriage that failed. And if we think of starting over from scratch in your 30s, is one, downright terrifying if it's you that have to make the decision. A lot of the times, you and I have things that happen out of our control. Whether you lose your job, your finances are changed, whatever it could be, sometimes we have to start from scratch. Your death of a loved one, death of a husband, there's all different kinds of things that can happen, and we have to start over with our lives. But this is you choosing to walk out and start on your own. That is terrifying, especially to be in your 30s, because you've already lived, you've gone out on your own, you're working for something, you feel great. Your 30s are that 20 to 30s are that struggle, get through it. So she's finally done it, okay? Served the divorce papers. Not only was she living in a separate apartment, now she served divorce papers. So it's like finalized for real this time. Before she had withdrawn the divorce, she had moved back with her family to Kansas, then she fled back to South Carolina. So, but now she's decided, this is it. This is real. And then 2 days later, make that decision to not be here anymore. That's just weird to me. I mean, no one can predict anything, obviously. I've had people who have unfortunately done similar acts. So it's, you can't prepare anybody or say, oh, they would have never done that because they had all these plans, they had everything. But to me, the timeline of this, the breakdown of the events is very peculiar. She was a voice for domestic abuse in the recent months before her death.
Lifting up your concerns and worries and cares, and you pause to pray for your friend whose family member has cancer, or to lift up their daughter or son who's just going through a season and they need prayer. Nothing makes the enemy more mad, because that's God's heart. Opposite of selfishness. It's just loving God's people the way God loves you. And
we learn as a community, crime community, that JP had claimed his wife had mental issues, and he had to put GPS trackers on her vehicle because sometimes medication was hard to get to her, because she would go out on a whim and decide whatever caused her mental issue, right? I mean, his allegations of her having mental issues may have stemmed from him. You know, like, he's not taking any blame, nothing on me, you know, the classic act of a psychopath man, husband. You know, nothing, it's not my fault. It was all her, you know, it's all an illusion, you know. But you have to think of all the lies that they've gone through, all the trauma that their marriage has gone through, even getting to the point of marrying him, you know, just everything that has led up to this. You don't think that affected her any? I mean, goodness. She filed, I guess it was when she went and got her vehicle serviced, and the dealer, the mechanic, found a GPS tracker in her car, and she reported it to the police. And that's when he was like, oh, she has mental issues, so I have to put it in there. And then later they found her tire slashed, and another GPS tracker was on her car. So multiple times she has found this. And, you know, you have to think how uneasy that is, because I'm a woman. I could care less if my husband puts a GPS tracker on me, but he would never need to. Like, he just wouldn't need to. And I mean, nowadays, everybody has access to your phone. So, like, you can share your location with your husband. So why would he feel the need to go the extra mile for her not to know that it's on her car? Like, what's going on? You know, most of the time when they say people are watching you or trackers or something, it's because they've done something wrong. You know, like when you're a kid and you're searching through your boyfriend's phone because you think he's cheated on you or something. You know, it's just like something had to alert him to even do that. So I'm not buying it. But on April 8th, Mica contacted the police and stated that JP had posted a indecent photo of her on Facebook. Now, he did do it anonymously and blurred out like certain features, but that's like out of line. Why would anybody post a picture of the wife that they loved so much and cared about, and she was the best wife, and she always complimented me when I was funny at church or funny? The obituary was a nightmare. I'm going to post it here. I mean, is this guy not delusional? Her family did not attend, and thank goodness, because if I had to sit there and watch this man pretend cry, pretend to, I don't even know what, make himself look attractive after your wife dies, I mean, come on, get real. Let's get real. You don't have to do that. You can have somebody else officiate. You can have somebody else write the obituary. Why are you doing all these things, especially to paint a picture for what and for who? Just so you don't look like the bad guy? You lost your job anyways, bro. Okay? But anyway, so when she reported this, there was no action that they could take, because South Carolina law says that if you send your spouse the picture, or whoever it is the picture of you, it's their legal possession and they can choose what they want to do with it. Which is so sad, because that picture was probably sent years ago and he just had it on his phone. You know, how many pictures have you shared with your friends and loved ones of your kids, your family, you know? But if you guys are not talking anymore or not in a good relationship, I wouldn't ever post pictures of something. Yeah, it's really crazy. So Mica's last post on Facebook, and I'm going to play you this interview of JP's friend, Tim Carter. This is somebody John Paul called the day this happened, okay?
JP personally called me and said, hey, Mica bought a gun. She's out in the backyard. Well, you think she bought it to shoot me? I don't know, JP. I don't know what's going on in the house that would be a reason. He was scared, was wondering, do you think she bought it to shoot me? Well, why would that be a question if you wasn't mistreating her?
I have a lot of trouble with this call, guys. I'm getting cold chills and emotional just thinking about it, because when you go look at the receipt of Mica purchasing the firearm, do you see that it says debit? Ooh, I've got cold chills. So he knew that she bought a gun. And he called his friend and said that she was in his backyard. Is she going to use it on me? So when I tie all this together, he was supposed to be at a sporting event. Now, unless I have the date wrong of that phone call, did she buy another gun a different day? Did he take the gun that she had originally bought? Or was that phone call this day? And are you now setting an alibi up for yourself? Maybe I'm wrong. But in my mind, when I break down the unfortunate events, one, this case feels completely rushed. There were multiple case shell founds. Gun case shells. Okay. One live round. When that fisherman walked up to where he heard the gunshots, he found her backpack. And when the officials came to the car, the gun case was in the car. I have two questions here that I can't find anywhere. And maybe if you find them, please leave them down in the comments. I'd love to know. I'm about to unravel what I think happened, and I could be completely wrong, obviously. This is all allegations. This is just me speculating. This is me taking all the evidence in that has been out for the public to review, and maybe you have a different view than I do. Not only did this man maybe have GPS trackers on her car, she's seen leaving her apartment and grabbing what looks like a Starbucks drink and leaving to go to the pawn shop. My mind wants me to wonder, why did she go to a pawn shop to buy a gun? There's plenty other places to buy guns. So is that the first place that she found the safest to buy a gun on her way? Maybe she noticed something. Maybe she got a text from JP. Maybe, I'm really wanting to know, because on June 5th, there is a court hearing, and that court hearing just happened. And the filing is for all of Mica's belongings when she was found. So they want her phone, obviously, her car, her purse, vehicle. This is against John Paul because he wants it, because I'm sure he wants to get in there, and I'm sure he wants to delete all the messages and delete all the stuff so he looks like a shining light, a shining ray of hope, even though law enforcement already has it. They've already reviewed it. But it paints a better picture for him, because what gets leaked is from friends and family, from evidence shown, from her friends' text messages. That stuff is leaked because of friends and family and whatever people have already with them. It's not coming from, law enforcement. But what's weird about this too is when she drives to Lombard State Park, I have myself in the days of despair when I was in high school. My boyfriend passed away, And I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was so depressed and so lonely and just needed hope that I would go sit at one of our local creeks on a rock, and I would just sit and pray with my Bible. And I would just cry out to the Lord and sit there. I'm talking hours just by myself, because I didn't know what to do, And part of me sees that in Mica, that she wanted to escape to somewhere in nature, because you just feel closer to God when you're in nature. And maybe I don't want to believe, that she did make that decision, but I feel like she was sitting or standing or whatever and just praising the Lord and asking and crying for help. And part of me believes that JP had a key to her vehicle. Now, whether it was him or one of his friends or a hired person, or I don't know who, where they would have, obviously we know why, but I really in my soul feel that car was unlocked, and when they unlocked the car, that firearm case was in the front seat. And in the depths of my soul, I believe that gun was sitting in the front seat. And I truly think that the car was unlocked. They took the firearm. They walked down to Mica where she was, because they could hear her crying, just like the fisherman did. The fisherman wasn't near her, but he heard her crying. And I think the person spooked her and she turned around. It was probably somebody she knew, and maybe trying to reconcile what's going on, explain what's going on, why she's upset, whatever it could be. And that's where her life was taken. And I truly believe it's somebody she knew, because she wasn't screaming for help. She did apparently have bruises on her hands, similar to defense wounds, her father, Michael, has stated. A full autopsy was not done, nor a toxicology report. Only a blood alcohol report, which is wild to me. And her body was cremated quickly. So we don't even have the opportunity to go back. And that is devastating, not only to her family and friends, but also to our community, because, there are a lot of things that you can unravel, after someone's passing. And that's so sad that even her own husband was quick to go ahead and cremate her body. I don't know about you guys, but I know death, and I know that I wanted every minute I could with the body, even though I knew their souls weren't there, and it's not them, but something makes you feel closer. But he was just ready to close that chapter. He was ready. He'd gotten away with whatever it is, and he was ready. I don't know who you know, JP, but you know somebody. A few somebodies. She does have diaries that are with her lawyer and tons of paperwork. She said that she has so much paperwork and diaries, and I pray that lawyer is safe and keeps those under wrap, because there will be more, and I know I'll have another update. But what we can do now is pray that her voice, her story continues, because what a sad event that has led to her death. I think it's so important to spread awareness. If you or your family or loved one is involved in a domestic abuse relationship, or something that you think is one, if we don't stand up and say something, who cares if you hurt their feelings? Who cares if they don't like you anymore? You know, I mean, I know Mica's friends did stand up for her. They reached out. But sometimes we have to keep inviting them. We have to keep, you can't alienate those people because they are in a dark story. And imagine what they've told you, what's actually going in their mind. Because when you say something to somebody, when you're really upset, you don't know the whole story. Somebody will share a small tidbit of what they're actually going through. Something that I'm not 100% sure on is the use of AI, because that has been a big portion of this case. Is JP's lawyer or attorney who helped him get the power of attorney over Mica stated that he is so excited for AI and basically he is going to use it in his practice. It's very forthcoming. I found this video
that AI was used in the 911 call made by Mica Miller, especially since this man came into the picture. His name is Tom Winslow, and he's the attorney for John Paul Miller, who allegedly helped John Paul obtain documents in regards to Mica Miller's mental health diagnosis. Winslow is not only John Paul's attorney, but he's also a member of Solid Rock Church. You can see in this video they're obviously good friends.
Yeah, he's too scared to do it. Michael will do it. Lauren, you want...
But here's where it gets interesting. Earlier this week, it was announced that Winslow, along with John Paul Miller, is under investigation by the FBI, according to Myrtle Beach SC News. But where does the connection of Winslow and AI come into play?
AI. Who would have thought that in a legal scenario 20 years ago when I started practicing that AI would be the next lawyer?
But let's stop right there, because half of the video you've just watched is AI generated, done completely free and within minutes. So let's go and listen to the 911 call.
I'm about to myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Here's the problem. That wasn't Mica's voice. I created that.
I'm about to myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me. I'm about to myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
But if you can't take my word for it, let's hear from a retired FBI agent.
All the allegations in the Mica Miller case that AI was used to call 911 have to be taken seriously at this point. I did not realize how advanced this stuff and how scary this stuff is getting.
Considering everything that's happened in this case, anything is possible.
And that's just concerning. That's scary. So if we're going to use AI, I think it's a wonderful tool for some things, but it's too much. It's too much. I can't believe it's out. I can't believe that every single person has access to it. And if we are going to be able to use AI, they have to have a tool to be able to figure out if something is AI, in my opinion. Every single person should have a tool or app at their disposal to run whatever program, whatever video, whatever phone call, text, whatever it is. We should be able to run it through a system to see if it's AI or not, in my opinion. When I look up suicide rates, the percentage of women versus men is astounding. It is like 4 times more men than women. And when we look at the ways women choose to, besides a firearm, barely makes the top 5. But first in alignment is poison, wrists, drowning, and hanging. So when we think about the different ways, women normally don't go for a headshot, because if you hear that 911 call that we just listened to, she wants her family to know where she's at. And I did do a ride along with law enforcement. I studied criminal justice in college, and part of my studies was ride-alongs. And unfortunately, I did show up with the officer because we had a suicide call, and she had shot herself. And you know where she shot herself? In the chest. Because women, most of the time, this means a lot. So there's so many things. There's so many questions that I have. I know you do too. But the only thing that I can think of is it wasn't her decision. And it shakes me to my core what drove her to the depths of hell to make that decision. What influence did her husband have that made her make that ultimatum? Mica Miller was a vibrant young woman, and it is absolutely unfortunate what has happened. Please continue to share her story. Your voice is heard, Mica, and you will not be forgotten.
Hey everybody, I just wanted to share the chorus of a song that came to my head the other day. I was just kind of battling thoughts of just kind of like human thoughts, you know, things that you want to do. And it's just a fleeting thought, you know, and then this song came to my mind because it says, you know, bless those who curse you, pray for your enemies, things like that. And so I just wanted to sing this really quick and see if it encourages you. I hope it does. But it says, I pray for your healing. The circumstances would change. I pray that the fear inside would flee in Jesus' name. I pray that a breakthrough would happen today. I pray miracles over your life in Jesus' name, in Jesus' name. So pray for those who curse you. Bless those who curse you. Speak well of those who are not speaking well over you, because God sees all, God hears all, He knows all. And if you keep your heart right and His will be done, not yours, it's all going to work out. So I hope it encourages you today.
With that is all I have today on the Mica Miller case, but I want to wish you a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you so much for staying with us. We'll catch you on the next video. We're looking to do about one case a week. If you have any that you'd love to talk about or review, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to look over whatever cases that are driving you bonkers too. And really, you know, when we think about abuse and relationships and crime, if you see something, say something. Whether it be to the person, to their friend, to their family, to law enforcement, you know, that's the best thing we can do as a community, to continue to stand up and share their story. Do not let Mica's story go unheard. I know that as a woman myself, I pray my friends and family pray for me every day, and as I do them. So stay tuned. And I pray the sun is shining on you wherever you are, but it's not too hot and humid. And you are always welcome here. Remember that, okay? I'll catch you next time.